showdown in Shanghai saw Great Britain on pole for the sprint race. Is the first corner they come to after the finish line.
Yes, it's one of the most difficult corners of any racetrack anywhere in the world, and of course because you come into it on a rising incline and then it flattens off briefly, then drops away. They say it is a plunge, and we've seen this corner the scene of many exciting incidents, not least of all, of course, last year when Italy and Lebanon tangled and Khalil Bashir went on to become a global star as he rolled and bounced into the gravel on the outside of the corner. Unfortunately, stepped out totally unhurt to wave to the crowds who were in adulation.
Yeah, they were, and waving now. The marshals, that gave you an example of how steep the dip is down Paddock Hill Bend. It's hard to know it really until you've seen it for sure. If you want to know more about the track and John's views, it's all on the website as well. So go to A1GP.com for a detailed explanation of how to get around this Brands Hatch circuit. But these guys have got to deal with it themselves this afternoon. This is Jan Charouz, who's driving for the Czech Republic, his father's team. But Jan himself doing a reasonable job so far. He's not a pace setter, but hopefully he's going to put in a reasonable qualifying performance. He's only raced on one occasion before in A1GP. That was here at Brands Hatch at the very first meeting, and he was 15th quickest here this morning.
Yes, and he was 1.5 seconds away from the France time. That was the quickest time this morning. 1.5 seconds doesn't sound an awful lot, but on a 2.3 mile lap at Brands Hatch, it's a very long way indeed. And just to put it into perspective, France's time this morning of a 1 minute 15.2 equals 177 kilometers per hour. The pole single fastest lap last year by Brazil at 1:14.9 is 10 kilometres faster at 187. So fractions of seconds do make a big difference here at Brands Hatch.
And there in the middle is the man who was quickest this morning, Loic Duval for Team France. As we say, only a Nats whisker ahead of Great Britain, of Robbie Kerr. USA were third, Portugal were fourth, India, Germany, Switzerland, they were all up there as well. But there's no doubt that Team France is very hopeful that they might be able to get through this second campaign, the first defence of their title with a victory. They haven't had a victory so far in this second season. Matt Halliday is driving for New Zealand, John. Johnny Reid had a bit of an off, didn't he, on the Friday?
Yes, and uncharacteristically, Johnny Reid on his third lap here at Brands Hatch made what appears to be a driving error. Certainly he was very late on the brakes going into Druids Bend and over around the corner, but in itself wasn't the problem. But he went on the gravel and he had enough momentum to take him to the tyre barrier behind the gravel and then damaged the front of the car, but more so did a bit of injury to his left wrist. And the team were switching and swapping between Matt Halliday and Johnny Reid. The team took that decision to say, okay, Matt, look, for the sake of the situation and the championship, we will actually go with Matt Halliday.
Well, he's likely to go well here. He does like the circuit. It's a lovely part of the world here in Kent, as the drivers found out just a little earlier on this week.
The English countryside was the perfect tranquil setting for the A1GP Kings of the Castle. But drivers like action, and it wasn't long before they were tearing up the rolling fields of Leeds Castle. The only wildlife in this field was the A1GP drivers in their Apaches. No gravel traps or tyre walls at this rolling circuit though. But as always, precision was the name of the game, and whilst some were good, others experienced some technical issues. The drivers also got to try their hand at clay pigeon shooting, but 12-bore guns are a different type of power to the one these guys are used to.
Great to see Nico Hulkenberg really enjoying himself. He seems to be in very relaxed mood, but he's never been to Brands Hatch before, loves the track and is enjoying the challenge that this place offers.
Yes, he is, and very happy chap he is. And just watching some of those drivers with 12-bore shotguns, of course, one of the most famous racing drivers in the world, started his career as a trap and clay pigeon shooter, of course. No one less than Sir Jackie Stewart. We Jackie to his friends. And it does require another skill, but balance and good coordination is certainly a very big part of it. And I hope the guys enjoyed that clay pigeon shooting.
Yeah, that looked like a lot of fun. Well, Malaysia are in good form here once this weekend. They're looking for a top 10 starting position. But an important award was made to Alex Young just a little earlier on this afternoon. It was an award actually that he knew about a little earlier on, a couple of months ago. Martin Brundle awarded him with the Bruce McLaren Award. Now, John, tell us about this, because this is presented by the BRDC, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's an award given to the British and Commonwealth driver in the view of the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club, who's performed the best in their opinion, and is chosen by the members of the board of the BRDC. And it is certainly in terms of the club awards, a highly prestigious. Anything to do with Bruce McLaren has got to be top draw. And Alex Young, he's part UK, so that's how he qualified for that award. And Martin Brundle, Alan Jones, of course, former world champion, came along as well at that particular presentation. Martin Brundle was also, of course, chairman of the board of the BRDC. Some of the duties that he performed on behalf of the club in the late 90s and early part of the 21st century.
So that was a little earlier. Now everyone's mind beginning to focus on qualifying here. As you say, we're looking for a lap in the 1:14s. That certainly was the mark that was set by Nelson Piquet for Brazil 18 months ago when A1GP first came to this Brands Hatch circuit. And we'll see just how close people can get. It's good to see lots of support for Robbie Kerr this weekend, winner of the sprint race, but also winner of pole position last time out in Shanghai.
Yeah, it was a very, very impressive run. That fourth qualifying segment, he literally blew the doors off everybody in the paddock, gained half a second. And I asked him, where did he come from? And he said, well, we worked for it, but the car had the time in it, as we look at Richard Lyons. And, well, a lot of additional support here for Team Ireland. Over 300 guests joining Team Ireland on Sunday. So I think the hoolie, whatever happens after the event, will probably be the focal point in the paddock.
So they'll be looking for a good run. They were struggling a little bit this morning to put together some quick laps. So a bit of a surprise to see Ireland down the order in 17th position. Australia there were one place behind them. They were in 18th position. So both nations will be looking for slightly better performances here in qualifying this afternoon. We're all set for qualifying to get underway here at Brands Hatch. Nico Hulkenberg for Team Germany. They've already wrapped up the World Cup of Nations, but what are they going to do here at Brands? Are they going to add to their win tally? And the session is just about to get underway. You don't have to go out when the green flag comes out. You can wait. You can go out whenever you like within the 15 minutes. And at the moment, it's pretty quiet on pit lane.
Yes, it is. And inevitably, everybody's sitting around waiting for somebody to go out first. We normally see Noor Ali for Pakistan first on racetrack. But I did speak to Rob Creswell, engineering the car for Nico Hulkenberg, and asked him, Rob, did you have a problem this morning? You weren't quite at the normal level? There we are. Pakistan is the first car in the pit lane. And they said, no, we actually did about 145 miles on one set of tyres. They ran those tyres on Friday afternoon and then on Saturday morning. So we did a lot of work, and we're keeping back all our new tyres for qualifying. They are confident that Nico Hulkenberg can once again get back onto the podium, if not into the winner's circle.
So as Noor Ali comes out for Pakistan, let's quickly run you through the driver list here today. Ian Dyke for Australia. We've got Bruno Junqueira for Brazil. Sean McIntosh for Canada. Frankie Chen or Kung Fu Cheng for China. Jan Charuz for the Czech Republic. We've got Loic Duval for France. Nico Hulkenberg, as we've seen, for Germany. Robbie Kerr for Great Britain. Narain Karthikeyan drives for India. Moreno Soprapto is going to be driving for Indonesia, so he's got a late call to have a go with Ananda Mikkola not feeling too well. Richard Lyons for Team Ireland. We've got Enrico Tococello for Italy. Alam Coder for Lebanon. Alex Young for Malaysia. Juan Pablo Garcia for Mexico. He's a new driver to the series. There is Jeroen Bleekemolen driving, of course, for the Netherlands. For New Zealand, as we know, it's going to be Matt Halliday now for the weekend. Noor Ali out on track for Pakistan. Alvaro Parent for Portugal. Adrian Zaug for South Africa, Sebastian Buemi for Switzerland, and Jonathan Somerton for Team USA. So no huge surprises in the driver list in terms of who's been in the cars this year, except perhaps for Mexico, where we've got the new boy, Juan Pablo Garcia.
Yes, and that's a big step up for Garcia, because he's really come out of National Formula 3 in Great Britain and jumping into one of these cars at Brands Hatch. Remember, on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch, not the familiar Indy circuit, which most of the drivers here will have had some experience of. It is a big step forward as we watch Nur Ali start his first flying lap, goes into and through cleanly. Good exit for Nur Ali for Pakistan.
No doubt he's made some improvements, and I tell you what, he's got an opportunity here today, because he and Garcia for Mexico were sort of trading times towards the back of the field this morning. There's not much difference between them. Now, Pakistan's qualified last of all the entrants at every event so far this year. This could be their opportunity to not be last. And funnily enough, John, I was talking to Mark Hines, who is a pretty renowned driver coach, as we know, a former British F3 champion. He was watching this morning and he said Nur Ali has improved massively since the first part of the season, where he was just offline most corners, didn't seem to quite know where he was. Here, he said he's looking a lot better than at the early stages.
Yes, indeed, just watching him come through Hawthorne's now up into Westfield, just the whole perspective, the body language of the car, but also Nur Ali, his confidence is beginning to come through. He did struggle certainly on some of the circuits at the beginning of the second series, but now in this qualifying run, this is probably about as good, just looking at it from the outside on the TV screens, as we have seen from the Pakistani driver throughout the series.
Yeah, it's good to see. And I was talking to him earlier today. He really cares about Pakistan's entry in A1GP. He also cares massively about the production of new drivers, if you like, from Pakistan in the future. So it's something that matters to him. Across the line he goes. So it's a 1:19.809. How does that compare with what he did?
Well, he did an 18.5 this morning, and he was on new tyres for that particular run. But of course, track conditions, again, we talk about this all the time. It's some 3 3/4 hours since these cars were last on track. There have been a number of support events taking place. They don't all run on the same Cooper tyre, which is made by Avon, that we're seeing from the support events. So it is really a sighting lap for everybody to see where Nur Ali is. As now we see the first of the front runners, Jonathan Somerton for Team USA, going out on track. A clear track. He's only the second car to go on track. And keep an eye on this car, because Jonathan Somerton is capable of putting this car on the front row of the grid.
Definitely. He's been very fast all weekend. Interesting that Team USA are going for the early run. And now we've got Mexico and Australia also beginning to head down pit lane. But USA, we saw Somerton with that excellent performance qualifying third in Shanghai. He'd qualified 8th in Mexico. And remember, this is still only his 4th event as an A1GP race driver, going into qualifying and through both races, as opposed to a rookie driver, which he was earlier in the season. And for Team USA, it's been pretty much an upward curve. It's been very impressive from Somerton. So Great Britain decide to wait. They're going to see what everyone else does first, perhaps, before coming out onto circuit. They may well leave it until quite late in this session, I think.
They tend to leave it very much as the sort of last car out, and comes across the start-finish line to do his single flying lap, with maybe only seconds remaining in that session, as we now watch the Team USA car, Jonathan Somerton, coming down into clearways. And then the beginning, it's important to get a good drive off clearways, not run wide on the middle part of the corner, to then pick up the speed, because now going across start-finish line, this is the first of 4 times it is for rail.
So here we go, through Paddock Hill Bend, plunging downhill, running a wheel onto the curb, but that was pretty good.
There's the throttle, then the brake trace. The green is the throttle, the red is the brakes. So picks up the throttle through the corner. Full throttle on the run down into Graham Hill Bend. Take it easy in the entry. It's the exit that really counts. Don't run too much on the curb. You'll slide the car, catch the grass, lose time.
He turned just 19 years old just before this event. He's got lots of youthful enthusiasm, but that's tidy, that's neat, looks good out of Surtees.
Yes, and I mean, by going out early, it's always a risk, because it hasn't been really... Oh, look, there's the problem. He's going to catch up to some of these cars that have come out. Now, they ought to have been on a beginning their flying lap, but for
he's lost it at Hawthorne's, one of the fastest corners. The car crashes across to the inside. Real drama for USA.
And I can guarantee you the reason that accident occurred is because he was looking forward at those 2 cars ahead of him and not watching what he was doing on the exit of Hawthorne's. You can see the hand comes up in disbelief. First car we've seen off at Hawthorne's all day. Red flag immediately is thrown. The session is going to come to a standstill. We've got Mexico, and we've got Netherlands, Lebanon and Portugal on track. The car is safely on the inside, but nevertheless they'll want to get this thing cleared, safe. Watch again. He was looking at those cars ahead of him, turns in, Then suddenly it all starts to go wrong on the mid part of the corner. A bit of oversteer, runs wide, and then she goes into the long looping spin and finally makes contact with the barrier on the inside, midway between Hawthorns and Westfield.
That's a fast corner. What do you reckon, John? 140 miles an hour through there when it went sideways?
I would say, well, look, you can see again, yes, it was certainly 140 miles an hour at the point it started to go wrong. And to me, it was all about Jonathan Somerton was concerning himself about where he was going to catch up to those two slower cars who were on their outlaps, and clearly just a little loss of concentration. Ran too wide, too early in the exit of Hawthorns, caught the grass, and that was it all over.
What a shame for Somerton. Well, he is full of youthful experience. He's made the odd little mistake, but that was one that he didn't need to make on his first qualifying run. That is a great shame.
Well, young, fast, errors, they all go together. But what's even worse for Team USA is, can they get that car back to the pits? We don't know whether the car is a runner or whether it's too badly damaged it's going to have to be brought back at the end of a crane, as everybody else who had gone out comes back in. And what that will have done to their particular set of tyres, well, that's just unfortunately part of the circumstance.
Yes,
but
New Zealand was on a good lap then,
yes,
I think.
But can the USA, if that car can be brought back in time, turn it around to enable Somerton to get out in segments 3 and 4, because clearly he's going to miss segment 2 and segment 1 is a complete. So possibly we're looking at the USA starting at the back of the field.
Yeah, the clock is still ticking away, so this is affecting everybody, of course. But let's find out what the American team reaction is. Simon Hill is with team boss Rick Weidinger. So, yeah, that's the question of whether they get the car back in time, really.
I think getting the car back. Let's watch again. Funnily enough, he's straight in the middle of the road coming into the corner, which I would have thought he might have been further to the left. Then you get that little bit of oversteer mid-corner. That allows the car to exit the corner far too early. He actually clips the nose and the left rear and the rear wing. So, Rick, I'm sorry, it's more than a nose box, but he's too early on the exit of Hawthorns. And once he caught the curb, that's the danger of getting the wheel actually over the curb on the grass. That then put the car into that long looping slide that ended up in the barriers. He almost got down to the apex or to the middle of Westfield Bend.
Yeah, it's a long way to go, isn't it? But he was travelling very, very quickly. Well, the session's going to restart in just a few seconds. But the damage not only to the front, but as you mentioned, to the rear wheel is quite likely to be the reason they may not be able to get it out very quickly. They're going to have to go check over that left rear corner. And there may well be some problems there. So, not a great start for Team USA. And what it means is now we've only got just over 5 minutes in this session remaining.
The other problem is that's the most distant point from the paddock that you can get here at Brands Hatch. Westfield Bend is the most distantly point.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So they're not going to get the car back in this session, but there are only 5 minutes to go. We're just awaiting the green flag, which is about to be given, and away they go again. And New Zealand is allowed back out. They were on a run, but of course they still have the same tyres that they were on, not as if they're suddenly allowed a new extra set of tyres.
Yes, Netherlands, they came in. Portugal was there as well. Was looking at New Zealand. India now coming out. So the clock with less than 4 minutes remaining, or sorry, less than 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 40 seconds to be precise. So everybody is now going to change their strategy, not least of all Team GBR. Do they want to go out or is Jonathan Somerton back into the USA garage?
Yeah, and no doubt trying to explain what went wrong for him. Unfortunately, they're not going to get that car back out. Greg Wheeler's over there, his race engineer on the left, just to find out exactly what happened. And Jonathan trying to explain, well, just got away from me, I'm afraid, guys. I should imagine, something like that. The rest of them going out, and of course, it may change strategy for some of the other teams. Do they get out quickly now? Because, of course, another red flag in this session, and it really would be all over.
Yeah, I mean, all the preparations you've laid down, we're going to go out at this particular time, we're going to do this particular lap time. Well, that's all changed, and everybody suddenly, it's a real sort of charge to get out, get your time in. People will be tripping over cars that are on their way out, as we look here with Matt Halliday, Team New Zealand. So there he is coming up to complete his outlap. And and look at behind, that was Lebanon, I think, giving a real head staggers that came out of Sheen Curve.
Well, there's one or two anxious drivers now who haven't had a chance to get out there yet, and now they're pushing hard. This is one to watch. Matt Halliday qualified on the front row here at Brands Hatch some 18 months ago, and New Zealand want to wrap up second place in the points table. Great Britain their nearest challenger, but New Zealand only need 3 points from the 2 races on Sunday, so they're in great shape, but Halliday wants to go out on a high.
And Matt Halliday and the New Zealand entry looking a little bit better. In fact, it was India behind that had the head staggers coming out of Hunter-Reay and Karthikeyan, and keeping very much pace with the New Zealand car, but Matt Halliday looking a lot more assured than he did this morning. Of course, brand new tyres make a huge amount of difference to the handling of a car, and if you spent a long time on one set of tyres, which is what most people did this morning, well, new tyres, different world altogether.
So he's up on the split, no surprise there. Pakistan's the only nation that has so far set a time. Good first sector for Team New Zealand there, 23.5, so that's one of the quickest that we've seen in that first sector. Interestingly, he had very fast sector 2 and sector 3 times on his outlap, so he was pushing quite hard on his outlap.
And he's got traffic ahead. I think that is Switzerland indeed, Sebastian Buemi. So where does he catch the Swiss car? And again, traffic ahead. Buemi probably on an outlap, so this is the danger. Everybody waiting so long, being then forced with the red flag to go out. No option but to go out. But is he going to be affected by Switzerland? I think Switzerland's sufficiently far ahead that he will not come into play, but it will be a distraction to Matt Halliday.
It will be, but Buemi's going on to his hot lap, so of course he's not going to move out of the way. He actually gets a bit of a tow across the line. He goes fastest from the Netherlands, who also just put in a quick lap. But now India's just popped ahead. India was following New Zealand, and India's just gone quickest now from New Zealand and the Netherlands, with Australia 4th, then Lebanon and Pakistan.
An improvement in times over this morning from both India and New Zealand, Netherlands as well, so everything getting very tense indeed. Under 2 minutes remaining, so the Netherlands can go back into the pits, India can go back into the pits. Look, traffic all over the place. South Africa caught between Italy and the Czech Republic.
It's all very busy out there as a result of the red flag coming out on this session, and everybody trying to put in their laps at the same time. But India has gone to the top of the times. We're not surprised by that, because we knew Narain Karthikeyan would be fast here at Brands Hatch.
Sebastian Buemi is being assisted by Lebanon. He's got the Netherlands ahead. They've completed their time. He'll look to Jeroen Bleekemolen for the Netherlands to pull out of the way. Is he going to stay on the right part of the track, or is he going to... Oh, what has gone on? Use your mirror.
Yeah, that is a surprise. Bleekemolen's usually certainly a gentleman when it comes to getting out of the way of people, but I'm sure that would have affected Buemi for Switzerland.
Absolutely, that cost him at least half a second. So Sebastian Buemi, I'm sure, will be very upset that there wasn't more cooperation from the Netherlands in a very tricky part of the racetrack.
This could be a good lap nonetheless from Switzerland across the line. He goes 4th quickest. It's now India, New Zealand, China and Switzerland.
That time from Switzerland, I think, would have certainly challenged India or New Zealand had it not been for a car. Robbie Kerr, Team GBR, starts his lap now.
Let's see what this lap is then. He's been the dominant force through most of the practice sessions. Can he keep it together? He's got a clear space ahead of him at the moment. Out of paddock. That was neat and tidy. Into Druids. He loves this circuit. He's always been fast here in whatever he's driven, whether it was in Formula First or in Formula 3, winner of the British F3 Championship some years ago. He was fast here when A1 First came to the track as well, and he's pushing all the way down the back straight.
Just all stay off the curbs. He rode the curbs mercilessly this morning. Lack of grip was the reason. Now he's got fresh tyres. He's got the car absolutely optimised to his preference. He's aggressive. He loves this racetrack. Watch him through Hawthorns. He will be mighty.
India still fastest. Let's watch here. This is where Somerton went off. The checker flag goes out on the session. He's through Hawthorns. This is where he had a spin yesterday. Oh, but that was neat and tidy.
Very quick. There are bumps on the entry to Westfield. Bumps midway through it. No problem this lap. Through Sheen Curve. Maxes out on the exit of that corner. Now down to 3rd gear. Into Stirling's Bend. Out of the corner. Good clean exit.
This is looking like a good lap for Team GBR. India still the team to beat. Malaysia's come up to 4th place. Italy's now 3rd. Good lap from Toccocello. But what's this going to be for Robbie Kerr? Is it enough to beat Team India to provisional pole position across the line? It is by 0.2 of a second. Robbie Kerr goes quickest. Great Britain on top from... No, France! France has just gone quicker. France has just beaten that time. Loic Duval, who was quickest this morning, has just gone fastest.
And Germany's coming up to finish his lap as well. 1:48 to beat. 1:54. Germany 2nd, France 1st, Great Britain 3rd, India 4th. Well, in those closing seconds, did it ever come alive?
Surprise, surprise, it's not Great Britain here quickest, but we expected it because Robbie Kerr's been so rapid. But France and Germany have both gone quicker. The European nations have displaced India, who held that top spot for a long time. India's back in 4th.
Well, all I can suggest is let's have red flags in segment 2. 3 and 4 and leave 5 minutes to go because you couldn't get it more exciting than that.
That really was tight, but there is the fastest man, a 1:14.8, John, the fastest ever lap by an A1 car around this Brands Hatch circuit.
Certainly is, and that was done under extreme pressure. Remember, a lot of traffic on the racetrack. You never really knew if you're going to get a clean lap or not. We certainly saw, I believe Switzerland could have done better than they are currently in 9th place. They lost time because they got caught behind the Netherlands. Netherlands down in 11th place. So everybody, I think, could say, I could have done better, but France, quickest of all, quickest ever lap by an A1GP car around this 2.3 mile Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
So it's Loic Duval for Team France, the team that dominated the first season of A1GP, but which has failed to win a race or take a pole position so far in season 2. Well, he wants to correct that at the final meeting, and Great Britain's going to have to do a little bit of work here. It's not a big difference, 2.5 tenths of a second, and we know that as we go through the remaining segments, they'll be going quicker and quicker. Robbie Kerr still has this very much as a possibility to take pole, but he's got major pressure on now from France and Germany.
Absolutely, and the concern that I have is that we saw this morning when Robbie Kerr was pushing very, very hard indeed. He started to slide the car around a lot, and particularly coming out of clearways and the bottom of paddock and even up at Westfield Bend where he had that problem on Friday afternoon, that if he does respond to the pressure and starts to overdrive, that he may not have sufficient ammunition to tackle Germany and France, who are currently in control of the front row of the grid.
After one segment of qualifying, it's France ahead of Germany and Great Britain, India in a fine 4th ahead of New Zealand, Italy, a very good effort from Tococello, 7th for Malaysia, 8th for China, Kong Fu Cheng, Frankie going well there, Switzerland 9th and South Africa in 10th place. Just outside the top 10, it's Netherlands and Ireland, followed by Canada, then Brazil in 14th place, Portugal down in 15th, bit of a surprise, 16th place for Australia, good effort by Juan Pablo Garcia, the new boy for Mexico, who's beaten Lebanon, Indonesia, the Czech Republic, Pakistan, and of course no time for Team USA. Jonathan Somerton crashed up there at Hawthorns. So a very exciting first qualifying segment. This is the final meeting of this year. The third season of A1GP will get underway in the Netherlands at Zandvoort.
Cool, it was a bit frantic, wasn't it?
Good though, wasn't it?
That was great. Loved it.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're here at Brands Hatch for the finale to Season 2 of A1GP, World Cup of Motorsport. Team France have gone quickest in this first segment, but we've still got a long way to go.
Indeed. Well, I don't know whether the field's as breathless as we are in the commentary booth, but I tell you, that was exciting as Team USA get that car back, look around that left rear corner. The bodywork parts are obvious, but check suspension components, damage to the rim as well.
Yes, they did hit the wall pretty hard, the Armco barrier pretty hard. But we'll see whether they can get it all back together for at least 2 of their segments, and then they can still get a decent qualifying position. We're in the pause between 2 qualifying segments, but we're about to see the green flag start the second qualifying segment here at Brands Hatch. Watch the end of the pit lane. We'll go from red to green, and it'll be time to go. And the first out on track once again is Team Pakistan's Nur Ali. Now, he's not last at the moment because USA didn't set a time, but the next best was something like 2 seconds quicker than Nur. So he does need to find a bit here if he's going to try and get himself off that bottom spot for the first time this year.
Yes, but I do think, in fairness to him, that as he goes through these 4 qualifying segments, he will get quicker and quicker. But whether he will find enough, he's got enough left in the tank to put a threat to the Czech Republic or even Indonesia. Remember, we got Moreno Sopracto in the car, not and Ander Mikela. And Ander Mikela woke up this morning feeling unwell, and the team took the decision to put Moreno Sopracto into the car for the weekend. And he is also, for the first time, facing the prospect of competing in a sprint and feature race on the same weekend.
Looking down there in the British pit, there's probably a little bit of consternation. They want to try and get that pole position this afternoon. It's important to them. We know how crucial it is to the sprint race finishing positions to try and be on pole position. But They've got a little bit of work to do. France on top, Germany in second place. And watch out for India as well, John, because they are only just behind Great Britain.
Yes, indeed. Narain Karthikeyan, again, a Formula 3, ex-Formula 3 specialist around Brands Hatch, as we look at Rick Veninger having a bird's eye view of the back of that Team USA car. But Narain Karthikeyan, as we were talking about, capable of pulling something very special out of the bag, and in the process being very spectacular in doing it. I know that Narain is a bit of a light switch specialist. In other words, the throttle pedal has only got 2 positions, off or on, and while you're on new tyres you can get away with that, but of course come the race then circumstances are different. So we're now going to have a look and see what Nur Ali for Pakistan on his second segment of qualifying. He wants to find some improvement on that 1 minute 19.8 he achieved some 10 minutes ago.
So let's watch him down on the back part of the circuit. This is where he leaves the shorter Indy circuit, which of course has been used for champ cars, amongst other things in the past. Big international meetings have been held on that shorter track, but we're on the long loop, the extension out into the woods here. Now this is the corner where Jonathan Somerton had his problem. Looks okay, not really using quite enough of the road.
No, there's not the same level of commitment that we're seeing from the front runners. Nur Ali has yet to get into that area of commitment, but give him time and he'll get there. But I'm still curious as to why, as we watched that replay a couple of moments ago of Jonathan Somerton on the run into Hawthorne, he was much more in the centre of the road than I would have envisaged, and certainly in watching Nur Ali for Pakistan much further to the left, which is the normal approach that you would take to Hawthorne Corner.
So here he comes out of Clearways for the last bit of this hot lap that he's on. He did a 1:19.8 last time around. Across the line he goes 1:19.4 this time, so a slight improvement on his previous lap. Now we've got news from the pit lane. Simon Hill has got news for us from Team USA. Simon.
Well, the boys were looking at the car very, very carefully as it came off the low loader, and incredibly, apart from the visual damage that you can see on the nose cone, which has been destroyed, the suspension appears to have survived intact. The wheel rims are dented, but Greg Wheeler, who's the race engineer, said, we can't believe that it's not got bent wishbones, etc. And John and Ben, you were absolutely right. Jonathan Somerton said to the team, I took my eye off the ball. I was looking at the cars in front and just dropped a wheel off, and that's what made me spin.
Well, here we are looking at it again. Thanks for that, Simon. And he was distracted, John, as you pointed out, and that was the result.
Yes, and the thing started really coming down the straight. He was looking that far ahead. He knew that he was going to catch those slower cars probably towards the end of the lap, and maybe that distraction allowed him to run the car more to the centre of the racetrack than the left. But really, it was the exit of the corner, the speed he carried in. He didn't have enough road on the exit of the corner to get through it. And of course, once he was in trouble, then it was a matter of just trying to minimise it as much as possible. I think he got away in real terms fairly fortunately.
Yeah, it is a fast corner. We've seen some big damage done there in the past, so I think you're absolutely right. Lebanon had an incident yesterday where they went off on a red flag period and actually launched the car up into the air, and there was a fair bit of damage done to their car as well. Team Australia here, well, they've got a bit of work to do. They're quite a long way down the order. They want to try and move up from 16th place. This is Ian Dykes driving for the team. He's back in the car. He raced in Mexico and in Shanghai. Had a superb third place finish after qualifying 9th in Mexico, but the pace wasn't quite so strong in qualifying in Shanghai. He was only 21st on the grid.
Alvaro Parente for Portugal, a man that you can never discount, a man who knows Brands Hatch. May not be so familiar here with the Grand Prix circuit, but a quality driver and capable of keeping Portugal comfortably in the top 10. Having said that, he was only 16th. Now, he may not have used fresh rubber. That's the issue that always occurs when you run that first segment. Does everybody run new tyres, or do some only opt for the new tyre? Others run with the tyres that they finished the Friday or the Saturday morning session with.
Jeroen Bleekemolen loves this Brands Hatch circuit. You can see, by the way, the verve and the gusto with which he attacks the corners here. And the clock ticking away, of course, starts from his previous lap, because remember, you've got 2 lap times to add together in A1GP. 1 quick lap's not enough. You've got to put 2 together to give you your aggregate time, and that then gives you your grid position. So the clock ticking away from his earlier lap, which was enough for 12th place. It was a 1:15 rather, 0.8.
Yep. So a little bit of a chance for Bleekemolen to recover. He did get a roasting from me for not using his mirrors when other cars were quicker around him. Sebastian Buemi, no doubt, will have been happy with that. But a clear track for the Netherlands driver. Down the dip at Dingledale, up into Sheen Curve. Big commitments. A little bit of oversteer just as he turned the wheel, but nothing that would impede the progress into Stirling's Bend. And now the run down, the quick little run, well, he's showing 7/10 stop, but that It's all irrelevant.
Yeah, 7 seconds up on Pakistan.
7 seconds indeed.
But remember, no one else has done 2 laps together apart from Pakistan yet, so it's not really representative. Let's just see what it is. Across the line he comes. So he goes fastest. What's his second lap like?
15.4, so significant improvement for the Netherlands in that last lap. 15.8, 15.4.
So on the pit wall there, with the crew just keeping an eye on the time, seeing whether Bleeker Molen's going to maintain it, but it's a pretty successful qualifying record. Czech Republic car, this is Jan Charus. He's about to finish off his hot lap as well. Got a bit of work to do. He was only 20th after the first segment of qualifying. Let's see where this puts him. Mexico, by the way, has just popped up ahead of Pakistan. Czech Republic goes ahead of Mexico, so that's an improvement there for Jan Charus. Mexico was several places ahead of them after just the 1 lap had been completed.
So we're watching Italy, Enrico Toccocello, who really quite surprised everybody with that fine first segment qualifying run. So everybody now is focusing on Enrico Toccocello, and if he can combine this run with his 1:15.5, if he can get anywhere below that, he will end up currently quickest overall in these 2 segments.
But quite a few of the teams did use new tyres for the first segment, and that means they will probably be on a used set of tyres for this second segment of qualifying. So that'll be a little difficult to read, but that's pretty good.
14.7.
Wow.
Fastest single lap ever by Team Italy.
Fantastic.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Enrico Toccocello, who's up and down a little bit, capable of very fast times. But watch India. India also on the attack, and they were 4th, remember, after the first segment. Across the line, he goes 2nd, not quick enough.
15.05. But Italy, Enrico Toccocello, even Piercarlo Ghinzani, seat holder for Italy, sat there and went, where did that come from?
Well, it's great to see. They won in Beijing earlier on in this season, but they've never qualified really that well this season.
Matt Halliday, New Zealand. New Zealand's first run, they did a 1:15.3. They were right in the mix. This certainly would have put them, or that would have put them in the top 6. As we watch Matt Halliday coming up into Sheen Curve. Again, that little flick of the rear of the car, it gets it straightened up, just shims the grass as he goes into the corner. Good exit. So again, New Zealand looking to get back to the front. And they're doing it with Matt Halliday this weekend, not Johnny Reid.
That's right, Johnny watching from the pit lane, but here comes Matt Halliday. This is not going to be enough to beat Italy. I would imagine he's on his used tyres. Let's just see what it is. It's 3rd. It goes behind India. It was a 1:15.2. So a little bit of work to do, but I reckon they'll have their 2 new sets to use in the next 2 segments.
Indeed, and that is very consistent, a 1/10 of a second difference from segment 1 to segment 2. Now, Team USA quite rightly have got the wheels off. They're putting the geometry measuring gear on the car to check that the wheels are all doing what they should do. Frankie Cheng comes across for China.
Yeah, now Frankie had a pretty good first run. He was 8th quickest after the first segment of qualifying. He does know the Brands Hatch circuit, although it's the Indy circuit he knows well. I was wondering earlier whether he'd actually driven the Grand Prix track, and Mark Hines confirmed to me that he hadn't actually been on the Grand Prix loop before, so he's adapting pretty well.
Is Mark Hines making a business out of looking after sort of young drivers from the Far East to get them sorted out?
He is, I think. He's making a good business out of it. That was a bit of a slide out of Graham Hill, though.
Yes, it was, and it wasn't a productive one either. The back sort of swung round rather than one of those more controlled power exits. So a little bit of lost time for China on the exit of Graham Hill Bend.
So that's going to cost him a little bit, but now he can try and gain some of it back, perhaps, through the fast corners. The right-hander here at Hawthorns, 140 miles an hour on the exit there, and then just a dab on the brakes into Westfield corner.
It really takes a big, big commitment to turn into Westfield. You approach it very quickly indeed. You want to brake as late as you can, make a very quick turn, but then you've got to remember the bumps that are in that corner. They caught Robbie Kerr out, and he was totally committed.
Through the left-hander at Stirling's. You can see his split time shows that on the overall he's about a second down on Italy, but this would keep him in the top 5 currently, with not all of the front runners out on circuit as yet. We're still waiting for France, for Germany and for Great Britain. The top 3 after the first segment of qualifying. Let's see where this puts him. Across the line he goes. China pops into 5th position, just in behind the Netherlands. Switzerland's just gone 4th quickest, but we're still waiting for the real quick guys to emerge onto the circuit. Replay here of this sideways moment out of Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, just watch the way the back of the car sort of flicks out. He lays rubber. You can see that black line just about 3 feet away from the curb, and all that is energy that has been lost, is wasted. It would maybe took a couple of kilometres per hour off his speed down into Stirling and to Surtees corner, but all counts overall in the lap.
Now, Team Brazil have Bruno Junqueira back behind the wheel. Very experienced driver, of course. But can they move up the order somewhat, because they're down in 14th place after that first segment of
Yeah,
qualifying.
1:16.3 was his first sector time. So he needs certainly to get down into the low 15s, and ideally if he can get into a 14, well, that will be a bonus. But I think it's going to be a big ask here this afternoon for Bruno Junqueira, whichever you call him, to do a low 15, high 1 minute 14.
Yeah, it's not going to be the performance we saw from Brazil here 18 months ago when Nelson Piquet Jr. was driving the car and put it on pole position. 7th for the moment.
Yeah, 15.9, so it was best part of half a second quicker. But it's got him up to 7th place. But we've still got France, Great Britain, Germany, others waiting in the pits to come out. And we've had the shock, first of all, of Loic Duval upstaging Great Britain. And then Germany did it as well. And now in the second segment, we've got Italy upstaging everybody. So Loic Duval's got to think, as it says on his cockpits around.
Well, it's good to have some surprises, and Italy certainly throwing one to us there. But we're waiting for the top guns, as you say, to come out, particularly France, Germany, and this car, Great Britain. Robbie Kerr, determined to fight back and take pole position. He had pole last time out in Shanghai, and he saved it up until the final moment of final segment of qualifying until he achieved that. So he won't be rattled as yet. He's got time here. Malaysia, meanwhile, just coming out. They've left it quite late. Malaysia were 7th after the first segment of qualifying. They could be a threat as well, and we'll keep an eye on them. They're yet to complete their second lap.
Used tyres on the French car. So it's not really looking at expecting to see a significant improvement in time for France. Remember, their first segment qualifying lap was the quickest of that segment, 1:14.813. If he can get somewhere within 0.2 of a second, well, that could actually put him overall, or keep him overall quickest. Again, Robbie Kerr, Team GBR on used tyres. We don't know what Germany's done. We haven't seen into the German pit, but certainly 2 of the top 3 after the first segment are using the set of tyres they ran initially in that first segment.
Yeah, no great surprise there. That's what we often see as a tactic. Use the new tyre in the first segment. Just back that up with a second time on your used tyres as Robbie Kerr comes out, and then save the 2 new sets of tyres for the final 2 segments. Frankie Cheng's back in after a pretty good run for China, apart from that little slip on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, but he finished the lap well, and just under 2 minutes to go. So Great Britain really leaving it to the final moment.
So are France and so are Germany. Now we've seen the best part of, well, just over half the field, 13 cars have completed a time. There are other cars out on track. Malaysia, Ireland, France, South Africa and Canada have all gone out. We're still waiting for Great Britain, Germany, Portugal. USA is not going to go out in this segment because they're still working on their car.
That's right. I think they've written this segment off, but if they can get it back out for segments 3 and 4, they're still in with a chance of moving up a decent position on the grid. Germany, the last really of those front runners to get out there. Here's France beginning to build up now, because when they come out of clearways this time, the corner Loic Duval's into, this is onto the hot lap. Now France fastest after that first segment of qualifying, but Italy since then have gone even quicker.
France car looks very, very strong on the exit of clearways into Clark Curb. Here we are on board with Loic Duval working the steering wheel, keeps the car off the curb, good drive off the corner. Good use of the energy.
Yeah, that was lovely through there. Remember, Loic Duval's never been to Brands Hatch before this weekend, and yet he's dealing with all 520 horsepower in his A1GP car. Beautifully. Watch the throttle trace, hard on the power early.
Yeah, and he's not wasting time. He's getting on the throttle very quickly, showing a fraction of a second improvement on the overall time that Italy have done. Remember, he had about 0.3 of a second advantage over Italy's first run, so if he can get anywhere under that in relation to his first run, he will be once again fastest of the field.
Into Hawthorne's corner, the car moving out wide, but that was nice, beautifully under control. Very smooth turn into Westfield as well, runs it out to the curb on the exit. All about keeping it moving forwards here through the woodland. Wonderful section of track as he climbs again up the hill through the right-hander at Sheen, dips into the left-hander at Surtees, and then he's going to come out of the trees again.
Still maintaining that slight advantage over Italy. He only has to come down into clearways, get through this corner, let the car run out to the edge of the track, free it up through Clark Curve.
Let's see whether it's enough to take pole position, take it back from Italy. Is it enough across the line? Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
He's gone fastest overall, but the lap time at 1:15.0.
Indeed, so France retain that position. They've managed to get it back. Italy's stunning run didn't do enough, but France have done what they had to do.
So France on top, Italy with the individual fastest lap time, but they're pushed back to second. And what about Great Britain? Where is Great Britain going to be in this? They were third after the first segment of qualifying. Kerr across the line, and it puts him second, back ahead of Italy, a 1:14.9 on used tyres.
Yes, I think that's an outstanding. Nico Hülkenberg does not look particularly quick, and we haven't seen
He's
the
backed
German.
off and coming
he
in.
has come in, so the German has not completed his second qualifying segment run. Whether there's a problem or whether that's the reason why he just waved himself off. He made an error in Sterling's corner, or Sterling's bend, and he decided, forget it, I've done nothing, I'm coming in. And that's pressure. So everybody really struggling. Great Britain has regained that second place, and Italy now back down to third place. But what a great run from Toccocello. That 1:14.7, fastest ever single lap of a car, an A1GP car around Brands Hatch.
Germany's been brought into scrutineering. That's what's going on there. He's been called in. That happens on a pretty random process. And he's been weighed, and then the car is sent back out again, and he can make his way back to his pits. So France have regained the top spot here. Another great piece of driving from Loic Duval. Let's just take another look at what happened to Germany here.
Yes, coming into Sterling's bend, everything looks normal on the entry, just the back end. Well, again, that very fractional movement of the back of the car caused the correction, which allowed the car then to run. Here we watch the hands moving in the steering wheel. There it is. There's the correction. Then the car sort of sidesteps by about 4 feet, and there isn't 4 feet of racetrack left. There's only curbing and grass. And Nico Hulkenberg quite rightly said, that's it, guys, I'm into the pits. They have to look under the car to see if there's any damage to the underfloor, the underbody of the car, which is, of course, crucial in the way the aerodynamics of the car work, in respect especially of the diffuser at the rear of the car.
Well, another good qualifying segment there, but it's going to build up even more, I think, in segments 3 and 4. This is the situation after the first two have been completed. It's France on top from Great Britain with a gap of 2 laps of just over 1/10 of a second. Italy, a fantastic individual lap, the fastest individual lap so far, have moved up to 3rd. India 4th, New Zealand 5th, ahead of Malaysia and Switzerland. Then it's South Africa's Adrian Zaug. Netherlands, Jeroen Bleekemolen in 9th. China back down into 10th place, so they've lost a couple of positions. 11th for Canada, 12th for Ireland. 13th for Brazil, they've gained 1. Australia have jumped up a little bit too. They were 16th after the first segment. Czech Republic next up, followed by Lebanon, Mexico, Indonesia and Pakistan. And then the nations that have not completed either a second lap or, in USA's case, not even 1 lap. Germany, Portugal and USA. Well, Team France have the edge at the moment, but they do know they've got some threat here from Italy in particular, from Great Britain as well, maybe from Germany. Let's hear some news now from Lee Mackenzie in pit lane.
Thanks very much. Well, firstly, I was in the Team GBR garage after Robbie's first run, and I must say he didn't look at all concerned that he wasn't P1 after session 1. I think they have a few tricks up their sleeve. And if you're wondering why the Team Brazil car doesn't look its normal livery, it's because just between the 2 sessions they've had to change the tub. They experienced some difficulties. They tested it and they decided that a new tub would maybe get them back on the road to success. Simon.
Thanks, Lee. Well, this end of the pit lane has been lots going on. The biggest news, obviously, that stunning lap by Enrico Toccocello. Did do that on new tyres, as we thought. Michele Rigolo, who's the team's rookie driver, looked to me and said, we've just been working. We knew it was coming in a very calm way. Team Portugal aborted their lap very, very early because when they left the pit lane, as they came out into Paddock Bend, somebody blocked Alvaro Parent, and then he got blocked by somebody else at Druid. So it was all over before it even really started, which was quite sensible for him to stop. And finally, Team USA, the car is all ready to go. Fantastic job by the guys getting it re-prepped. It was a new nose, a new wing end plate. They checked the tracking on the car, and Somerton is looking very calm and ready to go again.
Great, thanks very much for that, Simon, and well done to Team USA for getting the car ready so quickly after what could have been much worse an accident for Jonathan Somerton in that first segment of qualifying. Bad news for Portugal, as you mentioned, but no doubt Alvaro Parent could still be a major threat if he can get a couple of good segments together in a few minutes. We're building up towards the 3rd segment of qualifying here at Brands Hatch. It's the finale to the A1GP World Cup of Motorsport season. And, John, we're in for a real tussle in these 2 remaining 15-minute sessions.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee all the remaining nations that are at the top of the field as Jonathan Somerton just goes through a little bit of preparation, just a little bit of focus on what he's got to do, and he's got to do a lot in these remaining 2 segments. He was distracted. We saw those 2 cars ahead of him, and that's always a problem in qualifying, and it was at a very quick part of the racetrack. He initially was too much in the middle of the road going into the corner, which was, I think, a contribution to what was then the end result, where he ran wide too early at the exit of Hawthorne's Bend and the damage to the car. Luckily, the damage sustained was very light indeed, and the team have done a great job. Well, Happy Bob's back. I thought it was Bob's Bits. Bob's Bits, for those that know, is a wonderful dry fly. We're coming into the dry fly fishing season very soon, Ben.
You were off fishing the other day, weren't you, John?
I always go fishing.
Whenever you get the chance. Well, we're all set for this battle because the green flag has been given to this session. Got it underway. Loic Duval focused and concentrated himself and doing very well so far. He's fastest on aggregate, even though he doesn't have the single fastest lap time. That belongs to Team Italy. So we really have got a tussle here. France, Great Britain, Team Italy, India are in there as well, New Zealand potentially, and then also Germany, maybe Portugal, and perhaps even USA, all in with a chance of challenging for pole position.
And what a magnificent day it is here at Brands Hatch Hospitality. The Pangea, absolutely chock-a-block as usual, as we look into Bruno Junqueira in that car rebuilt around a tub. And again, the time taken to do that, Bruno Junqueira having to go out into qualifying in a tub that he's not familiar with. There you can see the red background with all the decals of the Brazil team applied as quickly as possible to give some sense of the identity of the national colours of Brazil.
Yes, indeed. That was obviously a lot of hard work for Team Brazil before the start of this session. We're still waiting for the first car to come out, and this time it's a change. It's not Team Pakistan that comes out first. It is Portugal who got held up on that last run.
Well, Alvaro Parente, wouldn't it be ironic if he manages to catch a car when he's on his flying lap, because he went out, he was the first car out. In fact, it's the first time, I think, in this second series of A1GP that we've not seen Team Pakistan as the first car out of any of the 4 qualifying segments. But Alvaro Parente, very anxious indeed to make up for the time lost in that second segment. His first one wasn't particularly special, 1 minute 16.6. He again, like the USA, has got it all to do in segment 3, which we're now going to watch, and segment 4, the final one.
Moreno Suprapto getting his first chance to qualify for Indonesia. He's 18th at the moment. So we'll see what he can do when it comes to these final 2 segments of qualifying. Team Australia, Ian Dyke with a little bit of work still to do because they find themselves 14th. He did gain a couple of places in that last segment of qualifying. So let's see whether they can move a little further up the order here, try and knock on the door of the top 10. It's France, remember, that have that top spot at the moment from Great Britain, Italy, India and New Zealand. There is Nur Ali, and obviously not coming out to play just yet.
Well, with 3 minutes of this session are over. Normally Nur Ali would have been out, completed his lap and back in within 3 minutes.
Yeah, but he's being fired up now, so I think we'll see him on track pretty soon. Meanwhile, Portugal's just going on to its hot lap. You're watching Malaysia's driver Alex Young just walking to the back of the garage there and up the hill. Here comes Alvaro Parente, then very interesting approach into Druids, tighter than some.
Yes, he was drawing the car in early, maybe feeling that he needed to get the nose in. Depending on where you break into Druids Bend, if you overrun it, you want to maybe get the car in as quickly as possible. To me, there's a little bit of oversteer again in this Portuguese car. Watch the hands on the steering wheel. Has he got to make any correction? Well, he is making corrections all the way through, really feeling the car, waiting for the front or the back to give him the bite.
Yeah, the car sliding a little bit through Surtees, but he controlled it beautifully. Now watch him through the quick corner at Hawthorns. Let's see just how rapid he is through here. That was neat.
Oh, that was lovely. I mean, that's about as good as you get on the exit of Hawthorns. He clipped the curb right at the very end of the corner, and again immediately into Westfield Bend, and then the dip up and the climb into Sheen Curve looks very good. Alvaro Parente, I think, is fired up.
Yeah, now remember, his split times will show him well down on the time of Team France. He's really dependent now on his next 2 segments of qualifying. This one, so he's looking for an individual lap time here rather than a combined lap time, and then he's going to try and tie it together in the 4th segment. So what we'll do is tell you what his individual lap time is as he crosses the line. Will it put him anywhere in the hunt?
Not really. It looks as I can't say, 16.8 or a
15.8. Yeah, 15.8.
So it is an improvement virtually by 0.8 of a second for Alvaro Parente, but it's still a long, long way from where we saw Portugal this morning. They ended up 4th quickest at a 15.5, and that was done on a used set of tyres.
Yeah, so that's a disappointing run really for Portugal. We would have expected something a little faster. A low 15 is really what they needed there if they're going to challenge for a top 6 qualifying starting position. So 1 or 2 other cars out there. Pakistan, as we know, now on their hot lap. Meanwhile, there's Johnny Reid, man who went off in practice on Friday afternoon here. Injured his hand slightly, but they were both told before the start of the weekend that Johnny would be doing Friday afternoon, that Matt would do Saturday morning, and then there would be a decision made Well, the decision really didn't need to be made after that because, of course, he had no representative time to compete against whatever Matt Halliday had done.
I mean, totally unlike Johnny Reid, who is normally super smooth. You never see him getting a wheel out of line at all, and then just suddenly, maybe that was just the reaction to the pressure of knowing he was going to have to vacate the car on Saturday morning.
Juan Pablo Garcia driving for Mexico, really in at the deep end this weekend, but he's not done badly. So far he's quicker than Indonesia and Pakistan in genuine pace. He's also quicker than a couple of other cars, of course, who've not done all their laps. He gets a little bit sideways on the turn-in, and then he's a bit sharp on the power, but he's learning all about driving a much more powerful car than he's used to.
Indeed, and of course if you get it wrong in the entry into Druids, you just have to wait for the grip to come back. Anywhere that's more than a car width outside, and he was half a car width outside the ideal line, is going to be in the grey area and therefore lack of grip.
He's been racing Formula Renault in Mexico the last couple of seasons and only just come over to the UK to continue his learning curve, as it were. So this is quite a big jump up for him around the back of the circuit as well, no doubt, finding that the level of grip and downforce offered by an A1GP car is a little more than he's used to, and it takes a bit of time to build up the confidence that you really can go through a corner that quickly.
It's just for those fans of Pakistan. They have completed their third run, fastest of them all so far for Nur Ali on a 1 minute 18.8, still down in 20th place.
So down towards clearways, here comes Juan Pablo Garcia. Of course, the Mexican team's had a bit of an up and down season. Salvador Duran has been very successful in the early stages, but then it went away from them somewhat. Across the line he goes, and Mexico 17th quickest.
Yeah, so 1:17.1. So again for Mexico, each segment has seen small improvements. The biggest has come in that third segment. So Juan Pablo Garcia, he's showing in 17th place right now. So there's a little battle going on. Watch again as we come in to Druids. The back end of the car steps out under braking, and look how wide the car is away from the curbing, and that's basically half a car width. You want to have your wheels just really running the curb all the way around Druids Bend.
Still waiting for Team France to make their appearance in this third segment of qualifying. Remember, we've got 7.5 minutes. We're halfway through this third segment of qualifying, and then there's one more 15-minute segment after this, and then it's all over. So you've got to get these last two absolutely right and save your best, really, for these last two sessions, and that's Robbie Kerr's plan, I'm sure. He knows how to run it. He was on pole last time in Shanghai.
The difference between France and Great Britain is that the second run of France was fractionally quicker than the first run of Team GBR, so it's very, very close indeed between those two nations. And of course Italy, well, they've got that 1 minute 14.7 in the bank, and oh dear me, Adam Kadir coming out of Graham Hill Bend in the Lebanon entry, the back end again snapping, in an uncontrolled manner, again losing the momentum off that corner.
Just a little bit. The 25-year-old who comes from Brazil, although has Lebanese grandparents, just getting into a little bit of a slide there.
Yeah, you see again, very much we saw that in one of the earlier segments where I think it was Frankie Cheng let the back end go wayward, and you lose the momentum. Oh, and again, careful running out of Westfield, because you drop a wheel off there, you will turn 90 degrees and it will be right.
Yeah, and it was not very far to the barrier there if you do exactly that. So Coder really playing with the edge of the track in a little bit too many ways. Again, moving the car around, really leaning on it, but almost pulling it back too soon. Now into the final corner. Is Lebanon going to move ahead? They're battling really with Mexico for position currently. Just in behind Mexico. Is this going to be enough to move them ahead? Across the line he goes. Yep, they move one ahead. They're up into 17th. They go ahead of Mexico.
Yes, and he does a 16.924 on that lap. Nico Hulkenberg down currently. Well, Germany, of course, they bailed out of that second run. So Nico Hulkenberg really has got a 1 minute 14.9 already in his reserve. And Ian Dyke very committed through Sheen Curve coming up into Stirling's Bend.
Yeah, he always loves using all of the road and a little bit more. He's fun to watch, is Ian Dyke, but have they got some more pace out of this car? Onboard telemetry, fifth gear, down a gear, fourth for Clearways, the right-hander, fighting the wheel a little bit onto full throttle and out onto the Brabham Straight.
The one thing about Ian Dyke, he holds the steering wheel like it's his granny driving the car. He holds it at a 1/4 to 3, not at the normal 10 to 2 position.
He goes 16th quickest at the moment for Australia, so they've lost a little bit effectively now, and they'll be looking to try and claim that back in the final segment of qualifying. That last lap time, well, it Let's have a look. It was in the 15s, was it? Just no,
16-2.
16-2-5-5.
Alan Jones as well, he's got a smile
cheerful
on his face and a little bit of progress, but of course we've still got a few other nations, particularly Germany and the USA, who undoubtedly, when they get on track, especially Nico Hülkenberg, Jonathan Summerton's going to have to go out and get a feel again for what it is like on an A1GP car, but going through that Hawthorne's Bend where he did get caught out in that first qualifying.
Both Italy and India have gone onto the track now as well, so we'll have to keep a little bit of an eye on those two because they're likely to be challenging up front. Remember, Italy with the single individual fastest lap so far in this qualifying, but France have done 2 laps that together are slightly quicker than Italy's 2 laps. So France, Great Britain, Italy, that's the top 3 at the moment. You're looking at New Zealand. Now another front runner, qualifying 5th currently, provisionally. Can Matt Halliday find a bit more?
And that car looks so strong as it comes out of clearways. It looks to me like it's a car that's giving Matt Halliday a lot of confidence. Remember, he only jumped into the car this morning. He didn't drive it on Friday. Johnny Reid had control of the car on Friday and lost control of the car here on Friday, literally within 3 laps of getting into it.
And Matt Halliday's been a busy boy, hasn't he, John? Because he's been racing in champ cars over in the States and they've had a very busy start to their season.
Yes, and also big contrast in the techniques of driving those 2 cars. A lot more horsepower in the champ car, different levels of grip and downforce. So he's having to readapt to driving the A1GP car. He vacated that car in South Africa, a street track, nothing like Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
No, that's right, but he's dialed himself in pretty fast here. It was impressive this morning, and he was impressive here at Brands Hatch 18 months ago. So let's just watch him. He's a fighter. He loves to grab the car by the scruff of the neck, as we've spoken before, and really attack a track. And it can work here at Brands if you don't overdo it. That sort of driving style can work very, very effectively up through Sheen Curve.
I tell you, he's taking no prisoners all the way around the racetrack. Again, the watch, he had a little wobble here in one of the qualifying runs, so cleanly on the exit of Stirling's Bend. Now the run down into clearway. He's got to get the car using maximum track on the left-hand side. Runs it wide a little bit early, but got it back.
He's battling for 4th place with India at the moment. This might be enough for him to just jump into 4th. Let's see, across the line. No, he stays 5th. So still just behind India, but his individual fastest lap of the sessions so far, 1:15.122.
So the big boys, you might say, about to come out. France comes out of the garage. We're waiting for Team GBR and Italy there. Enrico Toccacella already on a flying lap. Looks again, good lap for Italy. Can he do another 1:14 or the tires seem the best?
Across the line he goes. Italy go on top, and it's another 1:14.7. India's just done a 1:14.7 as well, though. Karthikeyan takes India into 2nd place.
And that lap is within 6,000ths of a second of the lap that Toccacella did 1 segment ago. So everybody at the front getting into the 1:14.7. It's being divided by hundreds and then by thousandths of a second who gets the better lap.
Italy take the top spot then, and this really is a challenge from Team Italy to take their first ever pole position in A1GP. They were 3rd on the grid in Beijing earlier on this season, but they've yet to score a pole position, and what a surprise if they could do that. We hadn't really expected this. They haven't shown this kind of pace in the practice sessions, but bear in mind that Robbie Kerr was very fast on his used tyres last time out. He did a 14.9 on an old tyres. What can he do, John, on a brand new set?
Well, it's not what he can do, it's what he has got to do. There's been so much build-up expectation from Team GBR on the back of those 2 superb wins, first in Mexico and then in Shanghai for Robbie Kerr in the sprint race. So there is a mountain for Robbie Kerr now to have to climb. He's waving around, trying to get some heat into the tire as we watch France as they come around into Stirling's Bend.
Yeah, so he's about to go on to his hot lap here. Is Team France for Loic Duval. He'll come through clearways. Meanwhile, Netherlands has popped up to 6th place. Good lap from Jeroen Bleekemolen. It's put the Dutch car into 6th place. Here comes Team France then onto a hot lap. The French team, which dominated the first season, yet to take a pole position this year. Could it be their chance? Loic Duval certainly pushing for it.
Well, he needs to do a 14.7 or better because Italy has got 2 1:14.7 laps in the bin. So pressure not only on France, but a big expectation from Great Britain. Of course, Germany also, but they had to abandon their second segment. So Germany's real true performance will not be known until this qualifying is finished after 4 segments.
Look how close that split time was. He was 52,000 slower than Italy on the combined time of 2 laps. That's how close it is between Italy and France, battling for the top spot at the moment. And he's certainly stepped into the shoes of Nicolas Lapierre and Alexander Premat in this French car. Loic Duval is flying.
Ireland is also out and they're on a flying lap. Whether that's going to come into play for France, I think they may be sufficiently ahead of the French car not to have any bearing on Loic Duval. There's the Irish car going into Stirling's Bend. There's the French car going into Stirling's Bend. The gap is sufficient, no problem for France.
Good on the split. He's a tenth of a second quicker on the combined times than Italy. This could be France to take provisional pole back once again for the former champions. And out of clearways he comes. Let's see what the lap time is going to be. Italy currently quickest, but no, it's France now.
14.5, 14.565. Fastest lap. We've seen 3 fastest laps ever in here. Watch Robbie Kerr.
Yeah, Germany's gone third. What can Great Britain do across the line? Goes Robbie Kerr. He goes pole. He goes pole with a 1:14.381.
And look at the team in the pit lane. They're going, did he what? Did he what? 1 minute 14.381. Germany did a 14.5. 14.5 from France as well. And Robbie Kerr, when it counts, has pulled it out of the bag. All that knowledge and commitment from the Brit, from Leicestershire, has got himself currently, with 1 segment to go, I would say almost comfortably on provisional pole.
That's a fantastic lap by Robbie Kerr. He's 2 to 3 tenths faster on the individual lap than anybody. On the combined times, though, John, he's only 87 thousandths faster than France. So it's not all over yet if the French come up with something really special in the final segment. But what a lap, nonetheless. The quickest lap we've seen so far. It's by Robbie Kerr. It's by Team GBR. And GBR on target to become the first host nation ever to take pole position. Well, let's see if he can do it. There's still a segment, another 15 minutes of qualifying to go here. And it's Great Britain on top, France second, Italy third now, with Germany also quick there. Johnny did a 1:14.598. Let's just take a look at that order. It's Great Britain, France, and Italy, the top 3. Germany fourth. And look, the top 4 cars covered by less than 3 tenths of a second over 2 laps. That's not just 1 lap, that's over 2 laps. India 5th, Malaysia 6th, then South Africa well up into 7th. New Zealand has been pushed back to 8th, ahead of the Netherlands and Switzerland. Sebastian Buemi making a bit of an impact now. Then it's China in 11th, Ireland a good 12th, then Canada and Brazil. The Czech Republic, now Portugal only managed to bring themselves up to 16th, ahead of Australia and Lebanon. Then Indonesia, Mexico, Pakistan, and USA. They did a 1:15.7 at the end of that. They've still got to put in another time to put themselves further up the grid. Well, it is a beautiful afternoon, and what a fantastic qualifying session. Those top 4 cars now covered by less than 3 tenths of a second. It's remarkable.
Well, I think that lap from Robbie Kerr, again, the unexpected, always expect the unexpected from Robbie Kerr. He did it in Shanghai. He's done it here in the 3rd segment. Loic Duval, who has done a brilliant job for France to get into that middle 1 minute 14, combined to a 1 minute 14.8 to claim back the provisional pole from Italy, who had managed to seed it with 2 excellent 1 minute 14.7s. But out of the blue, Robbie Kerr says, I've got the least in this place. I am going to be enforcing it, and I'm going to take that pole position.
Italy still in the hunt, though. There's no doubt about it that Team Italy have been very fast. Those 2 1 minute 14.7s keeps them very much in the hunt if Toccocello can just find a little bit more on this final segment. It does depend, of course, on what Great Britain find as well. But this is wonderful, wonderful, close battling in qualifying here. It's mainly, for some reason, it's the European nations that are flying at Brands. We've got Britain on top, France and Italy and Germany, India. Then the first of the Asian nations, and they're up ahead of Malaysia. South Africa moved up to 7th place then, so that must have been a pretty good lap from Adrian Zaug.
Yes, the 1 minute 14.8 for Adrian Zaug, and he got himself into the club of the drivers that are in the 1 minute 14s. So if you're not on the 1 minute 14s, you're not at the races.
Absolutely right, and it's a long 15 minutes still to go for these guys to see exactly who ends up on top. But India running well, Malaysia as well, important battle for them in the points, because Malaysia very, very close in the points to both Switzerland and the Netherlands, and they're trying to defend their 5th place. Now currently Malaysia are ahead of their big rivals for that battle, but there's not a great deal in it. Jonathan Summerton put in a solid lap, I would say, after his incident earlier on. It was always going to be a tough one for him to go back out and be immediately one of the fastest. Well, he wasn't. He put in a solid lap, but it's not really going to be enough for him to challenge for pole.
Yes, he's obviously got a little bit of damage to his left hand, just getting some painkiller on it.
So we've got the one final segment of qualifying due to get underway in a few moments' time. But what about this for Team GBR on provisional pole? Let's hear from seat holder Tony Clements. Well, that really would mean something, wouldn't it? Tony Clements there looking for pole position for Team GBR. This was the moment as he crossed the line. And yes, that was a good lap, and he clenched his fist. He knew it was a good lap.
Oh, a fantastic lap. And I mean, you can see Tony Clements trying to, play it down a little bit, because he knows that with France and Italy in particular, and I think it really is Italy is the potential danger to Robbie Kerr, that if Toccocello can manage another stunning lap and Robbie not get quite the lap that he did, that 1 minute 14.3, if he can't repeat that, then the threat is there. Even Narain Karthikeyan for India is in with a shout, and his best is a 1 minute 14.7. If he could get himself down into those low minute 14s, he knows the circuit equally well as Robbie Kerr does, then this situation is by far a done deal.
So, Team Pakistan on their final qualifying attempt. His best lap so far was the last time around, which was a 1:18.8. So he's got into the 18s, but he is some little way off the next best, which is Mexico. So I don't think he's really going to manage not to be on the bottom spot in qualifying here. USA currently behind him, but that's simply because they haven't done 2 laps in this qualifying system. Out of Surtees he comes then, keeping the car in one piece. That's the main thing. He did cause a red flag earlier on in the practice sessions, but he's kept it out of the gravel this time.
Yes, and I mean, everything about his driving and about the way the car looks on the racetrack is a massive step forward for the Pakistani driver. And, he has learned a great deal, having come from a background of racing in the United States. In fact, when you speak to him, you'd swear that he was a citizen of the United States. His accent is absolutely chipped Texan. And but Nur Ali has gone on his job. He's done his best. He is, without doubt, I think, one of the most professional racing drivers I've seen out of a car. The way he behaves, and he can deal with pressure and deal with the corporate side of this A1GP series is very, very impressive.
Yes, he is absolutely right. Very easy guy to talk to, always very friendly and accommodating to anybody who approaches him. Across the line he goes then, and is that his best lap?
18.6. So he's done what he's done pretty much throughout the season. He's gone quicker through each session. And there, his father looks very happy indeed with the progress made by son Nur Ali.
Yes, so well done to Nur Ali, and Team Pakistan safely on the grid for the sprint and feature races here at Brands Hatch. But the focus and concentration evident on Enrico Toccocello's face. He knows he's got a chance here of at least a front row start, if not pole position. And Italy have yet to have a front row start in A1GP. That third place in Beijing, which actually wasn't a qualifying session. It was a third place taken from a practice session. They never got to do their qualifying. So it really would be, this is a tremendous effort from Team Italy. It's great to see because they have had a bit of a patchy performance throughout this second season. Some places, for example, Malaysia, he only qualified in 20th place, and we sort of scratched our heads and wondered what that was all about. Now we're seeing the sort of pace we might expect from him.
Well, Toccocello's always been a very, very quick driver, but for some reason the inconsistency of the team have conspired maybe to work against Toccocello. As we look at Narain Karthikeyan for Team India, currently in 5th place on the 3rd row of the grid. Narain Karthikeyan also with a 1 minute 14.7, and also could easily find themselves, if he improves, up onto the 2nd row of the grid. To get onto the front row of the grid, well, that's probably a larger challenge, but certainly threatening the top 4 very, very strongly indeed.
Yeah, it's close up there, isn't it? And it's good to see for Karthikeyan. 5th place would match his best so far, which was last time out in Shanghai. He was 5th on the grid there. Looking inside the New Zealand pit. Now, that's a bit disappointing for New Zealand, John. They're down in 8th place, which is a little bit of a surprise when you consider how strong they've been throughout the season.
I think the whole situation of the damage to the car yesterday, and then the way that Matt Halliday sort of was put into that car, feeling that the car has changed from when he drove it 18 months ago, and also coming from racing in the States in a different style of car, different weight of car, downforce, horsepower. and then having to make that readaptation also by only getting Saturday morning as opposed to having the entire weekend. And the strategy that New Zealand have adopted in giving both drivers the opportunity to have a shootout as to who's going to race, bearing in mind they've got a reasonably comfortable lead in the points championship over Great Britain. You never can well, it was a generous gesture, I think, on the part of New Zealand to give both their drivers the opportunity to fill that seat this weekend.
It's a very good point, though, because, with Great Britain fastest at the moment and New Zealand down in 8th, they're out of a points scoring position in the sprint race, at least, where they are. They're also where the action tends to happen. If Great Britain did go on to get 2 top finishes from both races, it's still possible that Great Britain could snatch that second place.
Well, there's always a danger if you're starting in the middle of the pack, and currently New Zealand would be in the 4th row of the grid. You're just at the front of the trouble area at the start of any event. The only benefit is that it's a rolling start, so sometimes there is advantages over the standing start. The field will be much more closely compacted, and that in itself also can cause a problem, particularly here coming into Druids Bend, notorious for first lap shunts, especially in the middle of the pack.
Absolutely right, yes. So it's not a nice place to be, and New Zealand may have to cope with that. They're down in 8th place at the moment. So Lebanon on circuit, and Alam Koder's qualified at 18th so far. He's ahead of Indonesia, Mexico and Pakistan. They really have shown a lot of improvement, Team Lebanon, in the last couple of events. And Alam Koder himself has shown a lot of potential. I think the team are certainly investing a lot in him for the remainder of this year, looking forward to the 3rd season of A1GP, and I think he'll have a lot of opportunities there. Also out on track, Australia. What about Team Ireland? Where are they at the moment?
Well, they've actually made a step forward. They were really struggling this morning, and Gary Anderson, I spoke to him, he's the technical director in Team Ireland, and Richard Lyons, they're all shaking their heads, scratching their heads. They have made some changes. They've gone up on spring rates. They've made a few ride height changes, and whatever they've done, they've found some of the pace that we saw Ireland found in Shanghai, because they also had a change of tub for the Shanghai round. Somewhere that time didn't seem to be working here at Brands Hatch, but they've got it back. Richard Lyons currently in 12th place, fastest lap 1 minute 15.4.
Lebanon across the line then, going on to his fast lap. This is Alam Koder, 25-year-old, who's been racing mainly in Brazil the last few years. In fact, he's been racing big V8 stock cars in Brazil, and that's a little bit different to a lithe and nimble A1GP car in comparison. Sliding it around, though, he's not afraid of the power.
No, he's not. And I mean, sometimes drivers who are maybe suffering from understeer say, give me anything but understeer. So the consequence is they get the back of the car fairly stiff, and then when they put the power on, the power breaks the traction of the rear tire. No traction control, remember, on an A1GP car. So the control of the rear wheels is really within the foot of the driver, and if the driver isn't being, let's say, sensitive to the throttle, then wheel spin and a slide at the back is the consequence.
Yeah, a little bit ragged between Hawthorns and Westfield there. The car just switching around a little bit, but he's pushing very, very hard. This, as you mentioned earlier, a notable race for Lebanon when they had that huge rollover into Paddock Hill Bend at the first ever meeting of A1GP here. Still to score their first points, but representing the Arab world really in A1GP, the only Arab nation competing, and competing with real heart and soul as well. Across the line we go. Let's see what it is. He stays 18th for the moment. The lap time of 1:16.3, his best to date.
Yes, and that's really all you can ask for somebody who hasn't got the experience of others. There he turns in, and it's all a little bit, will I turn early, will I not? And then the car understeers, then the back end kicks out, and he runs wide again early on the exit of Druids Bend.
So
Czech Republic.
Yeah, Czech Republic going for it now on a hot lap here for Jan Charus. He's been racing sports cars the last couple of months and doing pretty well, but it's a different kettle of fish when you're trying to qualify a single seat. Oh, big slide.
Well, I tell you what, that was a big escape for Jan Charus, because you do not want to have the back of your car step sideways, and he had a lot of lock applied to keep the car in control. Nevertheless, he maintains the momentum, keeps it running as the clock ticks away, and Jan Charus for the Czech Republic.
15th at the moment. This is going to improve him at all? No, he stays 15th, and he did lose some time on that lap.
Yes, his best time came in that second segment of qualifying with a 1 minute 15.9. That slide at the back of the car probably would have seen a fairly similar time. Watch as he comes up into Sheen Curve, turns into the corner, and there it clips the curb, runs wide, and then all of a sudden, like he caught a dirty edge of the circuit, and back end slept out. That's the biggest slide we've seen through the Sheen curve so far this weekend.
That's right. You only need to get a few inches offline through there. We saw it last year. One or two people went wide in the race, and they were really then struggling to get back on the tarmac. Here is Juan Pablo Garcia for Team Mexico. 20th quickest at the moment, just ahead of Pakistan. And in fact, he's just moved ahead of Indonesia with that lap.
Yes, and again, for Juan Pablo Garcia, that's his fastest run of the 4 he's had this afternoon. So all the relatively inexperienced drivers have done what's been asked of them. That's go quicker in each of the segments, and culminating with their fastest times coming in the 4th.
Patience required to qualify well. You've got to wait for the right moment to come out on track. The pressure on the driver. There is Robbie Kerr, and you just sense that pressure, but also relishing it in a way. The opportunity to go out there and show what you can do, but timing is everything, and they're just waiting for the correct moment to come on circuit. Loic Duval looks relatively relaxed at the moment. Again, chatting with the team, he's been so impressive on the occasions we've seen him drive. He hasn't done the whole season, and now, of course, racing in Japan as well. A very busy schedule.
Well, not very many cars out on track. We've got Indonesia and Brazil. We've still got Canada, China, France, Germany, Great Britain, India, Ireland, Italy, Malaysia, Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, South Africa and USA waiting to go out on track. So if they're going to wait much longer with under 4 minutes remaining, the track is going to get very busy and very congested.
Of course, that plays into Robbie Kerr's hands, really, because he's the man with the fastest individual lap with pole position at the moment. If people get held up, well, it's not going to hurt him. So he's in the driving seat in terms of having that provisional pole position. Indonesia's Moreno Suprapto, who's got this opportunity, and Anda Mikola normally driving the car. Oh, a little bit deep into Surtees. As I was saying, Ananda Mikola not well today. So Moreno Suprapto, his brother, has been given the chance.
Yes, and I think his eyes were going around like donuts because he's never had to do a sprint and feature race in the same weekend. So it's a large task for Moreno Suprapto to carry out on behalf of Indonesia on Sunday afternoon.
So it looks pretty neat and tidy at the moment. If he can just keep it that way, he might reclaim a spot from Mexico, of course. That's where their battle is. It's Indonesia versus Mexico for 19th position.
So Italy, one of the first certainly to blink. We're looking down the list. Well, Brazil is out. It's got a pretty quick first sector time, personal best so far for the Brazilians in that first sector.
So a lot of cars actually, just beginning to come out of the pits. Let's see whether Indonesia can go back ahead of Mexico. Yes, he does. Well done. Moreno Suprapto does manage to nip back ahead of Mexico, so that's a good little rivalry between the two of them.
Turns in a replay of him going, and again the back, something sparking at the back of the car. Something has dropped down. Now, we don't know what that is because those are metal sparks of some description, whether it's from a skid block or something. The rear of the car, we've not seen anybody ever have that issue before.
Brand new tyres for Great Britain, brand new tyres for Team France as well, and that means the battle is going to be fought all the way to the checkered flag in this session with only 2 minutes and a little bit remaining. Here comes France then. The duel is on between France and Great Britain, but it's not just the two of them because Italy and Germany could play their parts.
Well, lock the doors, turn up the volume. This is going to be exciting. With 3 nations, Great Britain's out as well.
All
New
coming
Zealand
out
on,
together.
Yes, indeed. Well, they have to. They've only got just under 2 minutes remaining, so they've got to do an out lap and then start their flying lap. So they don't have a lot of time to spare. New Zealand is in a more comfortable position as Matt Halliday drops down into Graham Hill Bend. New Zealand currently in 8th position. Best lap at 1 minute 15.1, but running wide in Graham Hill Bend will not improve that.
And he's got to be careful because Netherlands behind them, very similar fastest lap time. So if Jeroen Bleekemolen really gets a good lap together here, New Zealand might not move up. They may actually go back down to 9th place. So Matt Halliday's got to keep the pressure on. He was pushing very hard, as you saw, out of Graham Hill Bend. Now watch him through the fast corners out the back.
And he's going to catch up. I think that might be France or USA just ahead of him. So again, the problem of waiting until the last moment before you go out for your qualifying runs, is it going to affect Matt Halliday or is that other car? It's just about far enough ahead for it not to come into play.
Into the left-hander, nice and smooth, runs out onto the curbing and then down towards clearways. His best lap at 1:15.1. He's failed to get into the 1 minute 14s so far today, which is a surprise for New Zealand. Race winners last time out with Johnny Reid in the feature race in China. Let's see where he goes then. 7th. He does gain a place. Oh, Robbie Kerr's off. Robbie Kerr's gone wide somewhere.
He's gone off a Sheen curve. Now, was that on an out lap or was that on a flying lap? But Robbie Kerr, desperate to clean up the tyres. I think that was on his out lap.
I think it was too. I don't think he was on his flying lap. He's desperate to clean up the tyres, as you say, and now go for it out of clearways.
So pressure and suddenly stress.
Netherlands has popped up to 6th, a 1:14.9 for Jeroen Bleekemolen. The Netherlands, a great lap there from Bleekemolen.
Well, dust up at Paddock Hill Bend. Somebody has gone off, I think. There's a massive amount of... Oh, it's not as a fireworks been... Well, what can you do? That didn't have catch your attention.
Italy does not claim the top spot back. Italy stays third. It cannot get ahead of France and Great Britain now. So the battle for pole is between Great Britain and France. Perhaps Germany too, but Germany would need something truly special from this lap.
He certainly has got a 1 minute 14.5, so he needs to get something a 1 minute 14.3, and that would probably do it.
That's right, so Germany's still in with a shout. He also slides, but he keeps it together beautifully through the right-hander at Sheen, now through the left-hander at Sterling's, went off there earlier. He was up on the split. This is an opportunity for the A1GP winners of Season 2 to take pole position here at Brands Hatch. Nico Hulkenberg fast on the lap, but is it enough to claim the top spot? Across the line he goes. Germany takes pole position.
14.430, not the single fastest lap, but sufficient. And we wait for Robbie Kerr, who went off at Sheen Corner on his outlap. We saw him desperately. Here he comes across the start-finish line.
Has it enough? Across the line. He's done it. He's done it. A 1:14.5. And Robbie Kerr claims pole position. My goodness, what a battle. He's done it by just over a tenth of a second, despite going off on his outlap. Robbie Kerr comes good. He takes pole at Brands. It's the first time the host nation has taken pole position, and it's Robbie Kerr that has done it for Great Britain here at Brands Hatch, one of his favourite circuits anywhere in the world. He's come good when the pressure was on there. He was the winner in Shanghai of the sprint race. That gave him extra confidence, and I think he used every ounce of that confidence here today. He did just enough, but what a lap that was by Germany on that final segment. Great Britain with the individual fastest lap. That was the off. Look how wide he went. He was way off, and he did very well to keep it off the barrier. That really could have ended in tears. He would have lost pole because he did briefly.
Well, that's all I can say, Robbie Kerr. What you did in the warm-up lap, well, you get your legs smacked for that. But what you did for that final lap, you have earned your pole position. Congratulations, outstanding lap.
A brilliant lap then from GBR's Robbie Kerr. They have got pole position. It's Germany second quickest. So it's going to be Great Britain up against the winners of A1GP in this second season, Germany from the front row of the grid. And what an enticing battle that promises to be, because Hulkenberg loves this Brands Hatch circuit. He's never raced here before. Robbie Kerr knows it well, and it's going to be Hulkenberg who starts alongside him. What great stuff from France as well, and they'll be disappointed. Loic Duval, who was on the top spot after the first two segments of qualifying, has to settle for third in the end. Italy settles for fourth place, and then India as well, up there matching the best that they've achieved so far. That was last time out in Shanghai, and India will therefore start from fifth position. Well, real drama right to the checkered flag there. Nico Hulkenberg just trying to stop his car from running into another. USA, by the way, did a good job on that last run as well. Despite that off earlier, he put in a 1:14.7 on his last run, did Jonathan Somerton, which put the USA car into 11th position, 11th place for Team USA. I think that's a good effort, despite the fact that he could well have been challenging for top four if he hadn't had the earlier accident. Robbie Kerr, thumbs up though. What a special moment again for him after he enjoyed the victory and the pole position in Shanghai. And now he wants to repeat that. Not only a victory perhaps in the sprint race, maybe he can actually do the double here at Brands and win the sprint and feature races, and perhaps even do something about taking second place from New Zealand, because New Zealand have qualified in 9th place on the grid. That really is one of the shocks of this qualifying session. Team New Zealand battling to hold to second place in the points. They will start in 9th. They're out of the points in the sprint race potentially. And if they then have a problem and don't get points in the feature race, and Great Britain goes on to win the two races, second place would certainly belong to Team GBR. So there's a lot to look at, a lot to fight for here this weekend, and Robbie Kerr has delivered so far. Fantastic stuff. Other notable performances there in qualifying. Malaysia did a great job, up to 6th place. Let's take a look at the overall order. It's Great Britain ahead of Germany, France 3rd, Italy 4th, India in 5th place, then Malaysia 6th, Switzerland 7th, the Netherlands, good effort from Bleekemolen on his final run there, moved up to 8th. Matt Halliday for New Zealand, though, down in 9th place, ahead of South Africa. 11th on the sprint race grid, it will be the United States after a great final lap from Jonathan Somerton. Ireland 12th, then 13th for China, 14th for Canada, ahead of Portugal. Disappointing effort that from Portugal. Brazil 16th, Czech Republic 17th, Australia 18th, ahead of Lebanon. Indonesia and Mexico, who had their own private battle, and the last car on the grid will be that of Team Pakistan. Well, what a dramatic session that was, and Robbie Kerr certainly saved himself at the end, but he had to. It was not enough to just settle back and wait to see what happened, because Germany had done sufficient to take pole position, and it depended on Robbie Kerr putting in a final quick lap. He did.